After school, I got cornered in an alley by the school's biggest badass. He toyed with a pocket knife and sneered, "If you're not going to talk, don't blame me for what happens next." As a half-baked succubus, my brain short-circuited. I stood on my toes and kissed him. When we broke apart, his eyes were misty and his legs were shaking so bad he would have buckled if I wasn't holding him up. "It's okay," I mumbled, stealing a glance at his glistening lips and swallowing hard. "It's like that for everyone the first time." The next day, the whole school knew I'd kissed the campus bad boy so hard he went weak in the knees, and got hooked. I shrank into the corner of the alley, my back pressed against the cold brick wall, faced with the menacing glare of Cole, our school's notorious bully. "Nora," Cole said, flipping a small knife in his hand as he blocked my escape. "I heard you were talking trash about me in the cafeteria yesterday." My palms were slick with sweat. I didn't," I stammered. Cole let out a cold laugh, the spinning blade flashing in the dim light. "You didn't?" As a succubus, my instincts were screaming at me, "Danger! Run!" Cole had a reputation. He bullied the weak, skipped class, and got into fights. He could take on 3 guys at once and had put a senior in the hospital last semester. And me? I was just a rookie succubus who could barely control her basic powers. I was so scared my tail was about to pop out. "Not talking?" Cole leaned in close. "Then don't blame me for." His breath washed over me. Surprisingly, it smelled good, like fresh laundry and sunshine. He smelled delicious. In a moment of panic, my brain went into overdrive. Acting on pure instinct, I stood on my tiptoes and pressed my lips to his. Cole's lips were softer than I imagined, with a cool hint of mint. A steady stream of energy flowed into me from the contact. It had been so long since I'd last fed, and he tasted so good. My succubus instincts took over, and I deepened the kiss without thinking, even sucking gently on his lower lip. NGH. The knife in Cole's hand clattered to the ground. It took him a moment to come to his senses. He tried to push me away, but his movements were weak and useless. I finally pulled back, reluctantly, when I realized someone might actually die if I didn't stop. Cole's eyes were hazy with a layer of mist. He gasped for air, his legs trembling so hard he could barely stand. If I hadn't wrapped an arm around his waist, he would have collapsed. It's okay," I stammered, trying to comfort him while sneaking glances at his dazed eyes and swollen lips. I had to swallow again. "It's like that for everyone the first time." Cole's expression shifted from confusion to fury, but his ragged breathing robbed him of any real menace. "Who the hell said it was my first time?" I quickly bowed in apology. Sorry. You just weren't breathing at all, and your lips were so tense, I just assumed." I cut myself off when I saw the look on his face. He looked like he wanted to eat me alive. His face alternated between pale and flushed as he mumbled a string of curses I couldn't quite make out. I stared, mesmerized, at his moving lips, my mind filled with a single thought: I really want to kiss him again. But I'm terrified he'll kill me. The next morning, I crept into the classroom to find Cole already sitting in the back row, his eyes stabbing into me like daggers. The rest of the class sensed the tension and automatically created a no-man's land between us. During the break, he dragged me into the stairwell and pinned me against the wall. "Explain," he said through gritted teeth. "What the hell did you do to me yesterday?" I blinked, looking at him innocently. "I just kissed you." "Bullshit," he snapped, his voice trembling despite its harshness. "How does one kiss make someone feel weak all over and dream about you all night? And whenever I see you, I..." He stopped himself, glaring at me. "What did you do?" Only then did I notice the unnatural flush on his face. His legs were shaking slightly, and he was bracing himself against the wall to stay upright. It hit me. "Whoa, are your side effects that strong? What does that mean?" "Spit it out," he demanded. I carefully helped steady his trembling legs. I didn't get why he was glaring, but I patiently explained, the kiss has some side effects. Your body remembers the feeling, so when you see me, those reactions come back. And when you don't see me, you miss it. So what do I do? He yelled, sounding desperate. My eyes involuntarily drifted back to his delicious-looking lips. I swallowed. Theoretically, a few more kisses should build up your tolerance. Cole grabbed my collar. What the hell are you? I'm a succubus, I admitted in a small voice. His expression grew even more rigid. Like, one of those demons that seduces humans for energy? No. I stomped my foot in frustration. My family is a respectable line of high-class succubi. We have a strict code of ethics. A code of ethics? He sneered, pointing to his own lips, still slightly swollen from yesterday. You call this a code of ethics? I fiddled with the hem of my shirt, embarrassed. Sorry, I was just so scared yesterday, I acted on instinct. And you looked so delicious. Shut up. Cole suddenly clamped a hand over my mouth, his face bright red and his eyes frantic. Don't you dare say another word. I looked at him sincerely. The moment he let go, I said, don't worry. I'll take full responsibility for the side effects. Who asked you to take responsibility? Cole looked even more distraught. He ran his hands through his hair in frustration before punching the innocent wall beside him. Listen. We're signing a contract for this. After a friendly negotiation, we signed the side effect desensitization agreement, which clearly stipulated Nora must provide kissing therapy to Cole whenever his side effects appear. The treatment process must be kept strictly confidential. Cole promises not to reveal Nora's true identity. No tongue. We happily signed the agreement, at least, I was happy. I wasn't sure why he added the fourth clause through gritted teeth, but the thought of having regular meals made my spirits soar. Ever since we signed the agreement, my life has been amazing. I've been well fed, but Cole has been acting strange. After school let out for lunch, I went to the back of the classroom to wait for him as agreed, ready for a satisfying meal. He had been napping on his desk. When he groggily opened his eyes and saw me, he quickly turned his head away and barked, "What are you looking at? Stay away from me." I blinked and obediently stood still. A few seconds later, he ran a hand through his hair in frustration and shot a shifty glance my way. "Get over here." Okay. I scurried over and squatted beside his desk, staring at him expectantly. His eyelashes are so long. My cousin said guys with long eyelashes are extra delicious. She was right. The tips of Cole's ears turned visibly red. He lowered his voice, hissing, "Don't get so close." "But you told me to come over," I said, confused. Seeing his flushed profile and slightly trembling body, I had a flash of insight. Are the side effects getting worse? He just snorted and turned away again, ignoring me. My voice filled with anticipation. "So, do you want to kiss now?" The classroom fell silent. My classmates' gazes shifted from curiosity to concern, and finally, to admiration. "What are you looking at? Get out of here." Cole yelled at them, then turned back to me, hissing through clenched teeth, "Who told you to say that out loud?" I tilted my head, confused. Cole snorted again, turned his head, and went back to ignoring me. I had another realization. "Oh, you're embarrassed, aren't you?" He took a deep breath, as if at the end of his rope. Giving up, he buried his face in his arms and mumbled, "None of your business." He was like a cat with its fur on end, practically steaming. Once the other students finally left, I eagerly got down to business. He closed his eyes and instinctively grabbed my sleeve. We'd been kissing for less than 10 seconds when he suddenly pushed me away, his face as red as if he were drunk. That's enough," he stammered. "But my cousin said it needs to be at least a minute to be effective," I said, my eyes wide with the sincere reverence I hold for my food. "Who cares what your cousin says?" He scrubbed a hand through his hair in frustration. The movement was so rough it pulled his uniform collar open, revealing a tiny succubus bite mark on his collarbone. I got a little too excited the other day and couldn't resist nibbling on his collarbone. Oh. Hasn't that faded yet? I reached out to touch it, but he jerked back as if electrocuted. Don't touch me. He yelped, fumbling to zip his uniform all the way up. And no more biting people from now on. Sorry, I apologized automatically, but I couldn't help but add, but you did say, bite harder, at the time. Nora. I immediately put on my most pitiful expression. Why was he yelling at me again? In the end, I still got a good meal. Whether I tricked him into it or got it by playing pitiful doesn't really matter. For a succubus, being well fed is the most important thing. There was another perk to all this: collecting homework from Cole became much easier. The whole reason he'd cornered me in the alley in the first place was because I'd called him out in the cafeteria for not doing his homework. I sat on a bench by the basketball court, sipping a juice box and watching Cole dominate the game. The sharp lines of his muscles were a pleasant sight in the sun. After sinking a perfect three-pointer, his eyes swept over to where I was sitting. His hand slipped, and the ball bounced right off his own face. Hey! He yelled, storming over to me. What are you doing here? The homeroom teacher sent me to tell you to turn in your math homework, I answered honestly. Cole's expression froze. He slammed the basketball onto the ground and strode toward me. With a smirk, he deliberately leaned in close. His shadow fell over me, bringing with it the heat of his workout and a heavy sense of pressure. Nora, you don't really think these little side effects can threaten me, do you? I swallowed nervously, trying to back away, but I was already pressed against the court's chain-link fence. Cole's arrogance grew. He moved even closer, his hot breath brushing against my ear as he slowed his words down for effect. You don't really think I'm scared of you, do you? My succubus instincts were going haywire. My mind went blank. On pure impulse, I leaned in and gently bit his earlobe. You! He staggered back 2 steps, his legs too weak to hold him. He scrambled to grab the fence for support. Cole, I reminded him quietly. Your face is really red. You're breathing hard. Your legs are shaking, too. Shut up. He gasped, struggling to catch his breath, his voice still trembling. Did you do that on purpose? Yes, I nodded honestly. Because you didn't do your homework, and you just tried to scare me. Cole tilted his head back and looked at the sky, his voice laced with despair and a hint of a whine. Just kill me already. I can't, I said, gently cupping his face in my hands. Succubi aren't allowed to kill people. The committee would have us executed. Besides, you're cute and you taste good. I couldn't bear to. Cole's face turned red, and he stammered for a moment before burying his head in my shoulder in defeat. You're going to be the death of me. So, the homework? I pressed. I'll do it later. He grumbled into my shoulder. At the end of the day, the class rep handed me a workbook. Can you give this to Cole for me? Huh? Me? I asked, pointing at myself dumbly. The rep gave me a teasing look. Yeah, you two have been pretty close lately, right? But I can't find him after school, I said with a sigh. Even though Cole needed me for desensitization at lunch, he was always the first one out the door when the final bell rang, disappearing completely. What? You two aren't together? The rep looked surprised for a second, then patted my shoulder approvingly. Good. He's not exactly good news. Remember when he put that guy in the hospital? I nodded. I know, but I think he's actually a pretty nice person. He always acted tough, but he'd never actually laid a hand on me. It felt more like he was bluffing. I didn't really believe he was the type to send someone to the hospital. The rep sighed. Man, being lovesick is rough. I wanted to argue more, but he just gave me a knowing look and returned to the sea of knowledge on his desk. I took the workbook, planning to give it to him tomorrow. I'd been eating so well from my main course lately that I'd barely eaten any human food. I should go to the market today and buy stuff to make a big meal. I thought happily as I carefully selected my groceries. The farmer's market was having a sale, so it was extra crowded. Suddenly, I saw a familiar back. Cole? What was he doing here? I instinctively ducked behind a vegetable stand, watching as he expertly elbowed his way through a crowd of grandmas and grandpas to grab discounted produce. He haggled with the butcher before leaving with several bags of groceries, walking with a hurried pace. On a whim, I followed him. He carried his shopping bags into a neighborhood of old, single-story houses. The door to one of the houses was slightly ajar. I heard Cole's voice from inside, unbelievably gentle. "Mom, I bought pork ribs. I'll make you some soup tonight." So he had this soft side to him. Peeking through the crack in the door, I saw Cole standing at the stove, wearing a faded pink apron. He was skillfully washing vegetables, trimming them, and simmering the soup. His profile looked incredibly soft in the sunset glow. Cole's features were actually quite delicate and kind. He just always pretended to be fierce. I knocked on the door. Cole put the lid on the pot before looking up. When he saw me, his expression went from shock to panic. Noticing the pink apron he was wearing, he flushed with annoyance. "What are you doing here?" I pulled his workbook from my backpack and handed it to him. "Your homework." Before Cole could say anything else, a violent coughing fit erupted from the inner room. Cough, cough, cough. Cole immediately dropped the workbook and rushed inside. A pale woman was lying in bed. She had the same beautiful eyes as Cole but was frighteningly thin. He helped her sit up, gently patting her back. "Did you take your medicine?" he asked, his voice soft enough to soothe a child. The woman shook her head. "I don't want to waste any more money, honey. Don't buy those pills." "No." Cole's face hardened as he carefully picked up a bowl of dark, herbal medicine. "How will you get better if you don't take it?" He held the bowl and fed it to her spoonful by spoonful, gently coaxing her. "Mom, don't worry about the money. Dr. Matthews knows our situation. All this medicine is free." Cole took her hand, massaging the pressure points in her palm. "It's not that serious anyway, and it doesn't cost anything, so just focus on getting better." Cole's mom looked up and saw me standing in the doorway behind him. A surprised smile lit up her face. "Cole, is this your classmate?" I gave her a sweet smile. "Hi, ma'am." Cole shot me a threatening look, then said nervously, Yeah, my classmate. She came to drop off homework." His mom's voice was warm but weak. "Why don't you stay for dinner? Cole rarely brings friends home." "She's not hungry," Cole said, stepping in front of me and giving me a pointed look. "She already ate." My eyes lit up. "I ate lunch, but I haven't had dinner yet." Cole looked like a cat whose tail had just been stepped on. He wanted to lash out but held back because his mom was there, settling for glaring at me in secret. "Aren't you cooking porridge?" I asked, pointing at the pot, which was starting to smell faintly burnt. "I'll go turn off the stove," he said, rushing back to the kitchen. I met his mom's eyes, and we couldn't help but smile at each other. Cole's home was small but tidy, filled with the lingering scent of herbal medicine. The table was set with a simple meal of 3 dishes and a soup, golden shredded potatoes, glossy braised pork belly, vibrant stir-fried greens, and a steaming pot of pork rib soup. "Nora, eat up," Cole's mom said, placing the biggest piece of pork belly in my bowl, her smiling eyes curving into crescents. Cole sullenly poked at his rice, kicking me under the table. I took a bite of the pork. The rich, savory flavor melted on my tongue. "This is delicious," I praised sincerely. 100 times better than the cafeterias. Maybe it was my imagination, but just that one compliment seemed to make his ears turn red again. "Cole started cooking when he was in elementary school," his mom said, gently stroking her son's hair. "This boy always says I'm not well, so he does all the housework." "Mom." Cole tried to maintain his tough guy act, but his voice came out soft. His mother's gentle gaze shifted between us. Cole has trouble expressing himself. He hasn't been bullying you at school, has he? Ahem. Cole started coughing for no reason, shooting me a look full of menace. I shook my head obediently. He doesn't bully me. In fact, he takes great care of me. I've been eating really well lately. I wasn't lying. Ever since that incident, my energy levels had been through the roof. Thinking about it made me feel a little hungry again. Cough. This time, Cole really did choke, his face turning beet red as he kicked me frantically under the table. His mom watched us with a gratified smile, but then her brow furrowed, and she began to cough violently. Cole immediately shot up, worried, but I was faster. I scooped up a spoonful of pork rib soup and held it out. "Ma'am, have some soup to soothe your throat." I took the opportunity to brush my fingers against her hand, my fingertip tracing a subtle pattern. After she drank it, her coughing stopped instantly. Her face even regained some color. "Today's soup is especially flavorful," she said, surprised. Cole stared at me intently. I winked at him. He pressed his lips together and silently placed another piece of pork belly in my bowl. The warm light of the lamp made me think of what humans love to call home. On the way back to my place, Cole was silent. Our shadows stretched and faded under the streetlights, only to grow again from beneath our feet. After a long while, he finally said softly, "Thank you for today." I hesitated before asking, "Your mom's illness?" "Terminal," he said, his voice so calm you couldn't detect any sadness or joy. "The doctor said she has about 6 months." I fell silent, not knowing how to respond. "She's always been frail," Cole said, stopping to look up at the insects fluttering around a streetlight. "When that bastard took the money and ran, he didn't even leave enough for her medical bills." I asked cautiously, "What about Dr. Matthews?" "I lied to her," he said with a dry laugh, his voice raspy and bitter. "There aren't that many good people in the world. Odd jobs, selling blood, underground fights, borrowing from loan sharks." He spoke slowly, as if flipping through a tattered book of memories. "I've done it all." He suddenly turned to me. "If you weren't a succubus, a good girl like you should stay as far away from someone like me as possible." "That's not true," I blurted out, but I didn't know what to say next. Under the dim streetlight, his head was bowed, his expression hidden in shadow. He was so close, yet I couldn't see him clearly. I didn't like this feeling. So I grabbed his collar and kissed him. Cole flinched, instinctively grabbing my sleeve. I waited for the familiar weakness to take hold of him, but this kiss was different. It held none of a succubus's magic, it was just a kiss. After a long moment, I slowly pulled away. Seeing the familiar blush on his face, I finally felt a little more at ease. I looked him straight in the eye and said firmly, "It's going to be okay." Cole froze. A moment later, he covered his eyes and started laughing, his shoulders shaking. I had no idea what he was laughing about. When he finally turned to look at me, the corners of his eyes were slightly red. "Nora, you're such a dumbass succubus." The next day at school, there was a box of what looked like homemade pastries in my desk, along with a small note, "Made too much. Take it or leave it." I looked back and met Cole's eyes just as he awkwardly turned away. From that day on, snacks would mysteriously appear in my desk. Sometimes it was cookies, sometimes pudding, and sometimes even a full bento box. During lunch break, I was hiding out on the rooftop for a nap when Cole suddenly showed up. "Hey." His face was grim, but his eyes were darting all over the place. "You. Why didn't you come find me today?" I looked up, confused. "Huh? Are you having symptoms again?" Cole's expression froze instantly, then twisted into something like embarrassed anger. "Yeah. My legs are weak right now," he said fiercely. I quickly moved closer to check his face. "But you're standing perfectly fine." I said my legs are weak, so they're weak. His face bright red, he roughly shoved a piece of cake into my mouth. "Just eat." I chewed on the cake, it was strawberry, my favorite, and asked indistinctly, "So, do you want a kiss?" Cole's hand twitched, and the rest of the cake almost fell to the ground. He took a deep breath. "Finish eating first." "Okay," I nodded obediently and continued eating my cake. Suddenly, I remembered what the class rep had said. I looked up and asked him, "Can I ask you something?" He was fiddling with a pebble on the ground. "Go ahead." I continued, "Why did that upperclassman end up in the hospital?" He kicked the pebble away and snorted. "He deserved it." I nodded and went back to my cake. The filling was green grape, a perfect balance to the sweetness. Cole seemed surprised by my reaction. He stole a few glances at me, then asked incredulously, "That's it? You're not going to ask more?" I speared a grape with my fork and popped it into my mouth. "You already told me," I said, confused. He deserved it. So he must have done something wrong. Maybe it was the heat, but the tips of Cole's ears were turning red. "You sure trust me easily." After a moment, he finally spoke again. "I didn't bully him. He was secretly taking pictures of the girls' locker room. When I went to punch him, he had a sudden asthma attack. I was the one who took him to the hospital and paid his medical bills, but in the end, the story became that I beat him up and sent him there." I leaned closer. "Then why did you corner me that first time?" Cole shot me a wronged look. "It was because that creep happened to be following you that day, and I was worried." I poked his puffed-out cheek. His sulky expression immediately shattered. "What are you doing?" I grinned and ruffled his hair, it was soft, and continued, "You're a really good person." To my surprise, he didn't pull away. He even lowered his head obediently, letting me fuss with his hair like a big dog, but his words were still prickly. "None of your business." According to the Succubus Behavior Handbook, even humans sensitive to our magic should develop a resistance after a week. But here was the problem: Cole was seeking me out more and more frequently. It went from once every few days to every single day. On the surface, I was calm, but inside I was panicking. Oh no. Did it have the opposite effect? How could this happen? Was my textbook wrong? So on Friday, when Cole shyly invited me over for dinner, I hastily refused and fled in a panic. Only my cousin, who wins the Excellent Succubus of the Year award every year, could save me now. In the coffee shop, I watched my cousin, who was on a video call. A single tear clung to her eyelash, and her nose was adorably red. She looked like the world had betrayed her. The call ended. Her face went blank. She locked her phone and chugged her coffee. Ugh, this job is a real grind. I was stunned by her instant transformation. "Cousin Jess, are you okay?" She pulled out a compact to touch up her makeup. "I've got a gig playing a stand-in for some CEO's dead ex," she said breezily. "The guy's nuts. Swears I look just like his long-lost love." I was outraged. What? How could he do that? How he is doesn't matter. What matters is my professionalism. Jess elegantly put her makeup away. "I wear white dresses, act all innocent, speak in a soft voice. I've got the whole fragile damsel thing down." She suddenly adopted a breathy, pitiful voice. "In your heart, am I really just a replacement?" I was silent for a moment before saying honestly, "That's a little cringy." "Cringy? Please. Your cousin is a legend in this business." She pulled out a black card and waved it in my face. "See this? From the CEO. Unlimited spending." I was even more shocked. Fraud is a felony for succubi, punishable by 3 to 10 years in prison. Jess gave me an annoyed look. "This isn't fraud. Ever heard of a cosplay commission? He pays, I cosplay his dead girlfriend. Same principle." Jess leaned in conspiratorially. "You know what the funniest part is?" My curiosity was piqued. What? She lowered her voice. "The CEO's one that got away isn't even dead. She's living it up in Europe right now. I was confused. So why doesn't he go get her back? Why is he paying you? Men, she said, stirring her coffee and narrowing her eyes. They love to feel sorry for themselves. Anyway, what about you? How far have you gotten with that little human of yours? I immediately got serious. Jess, that's what I need to talk to you about. I carefully explained the whole story of helping Cole with his desensitization, and how his symptoms were only getting worse. Jess scoffed. Pathetic. He's probably just really sensitive to my magic, I argued. The side effects are stronger for him. Jess shot me a look of pure disgust. I was talking about you. Me? You're a disgrace to the entire succubus clan, she said, clutching her chest in mock pain. You've kissed him this many times and you still haven't sealed the deal? I blushed. We have a professional relationship. Jess, please, be serious, I begged, tugging on her arm. This won't cause any permanent damage, will it? You still don't get it? Jess shook her head. You're a hopeless case. She suddenly pulled out her phone and swiped a few times. Here, let your big sis send you some study materials. I opened my phone, the Succubus's Guide, How to Make Humans Helplessly Addicted to You. PDF. I locked my phone, annoyed. Jess. I'm being serious. So is my professional expertise, she retorted. Just then, her phone rang. Jess instantly switched back into fragile mode, her voice full of heartbreak. Hello, Mr. Winters? The CEO's deep voice came through the phone. Serena's having a heart episode. I have to be with her. Jess's face was a mask of indifference as she sobbed, okay. I'll wait for you at home. After hanging up, she put her phone away with a look of distaste and raised an eyebrow at me. See? That's a professional. Are you really going to wait for him? I asked, worried. Wait for my ass. She pulled out a second phone, dialed a number, and her voice instantly shifted into a sultry, confident tone. Tonight, 8 p.m. Club Radiance, private room 303. She hung up briskly and waved the black card at me again. I also have a boy toy to help me unwind. I said with genuine sincerity, Cousin Jess, you deserve that Excellent Succubus of the Year award. All right, your sister is off to have some fun. Jess grabbed her bag and stood up, handing me a small pill. You were worried about the side effects, right? This will eliminate them completely. After this, he'll never bother you again. I clutched the pill my cousin gave me, but I couldn't bring myself to give it to Cole. This tiny white pill would completely erase Cole's side effects, making him no longer blush, tremble, or lose control because of me. In other words, he would never come looking for me again. I squeezed the pill in my hand, a strange tightness in my chest. I cursed myself. Wouldn't it be better for him to be cured? What was I so torn up about? Though it hurt, I made up my mind. During the morning break, I placed the pill on Cole's desk with a note expressing my deepest apologies and my sincere wish for the cure to help him. I didn't mention my own confusing sadness or hesitation. After all, he was only close to me because of the side effects. He didn't need to know about any of this. I ate a strawberry cupcake, feeling even more miserable. After I left the cure on Cole's desk, he didn't come to school for a whole week. His seat in the classroom was empty, and a part of my heart felt empty along with it. He really was only near me because of the side effects. I tapped my pen against my notebook, feeling worse and worse. Now that he's taken the cure, he'll never come looking for me with that cute blush on his face, never gruffly shove snacks at me, never awkwardly complain about his legs feeling weak. I slumped onto my desk, burying my face in my arms. My nose started to sting. Turns out I'm just that greedy. To feed myself, I forced an innocent human to endure all those side effects, and even selfishly wished he would never get better. I'm a terrible succubus. Cole finally came back to school. I saw him walk into the classroom from a distance, and my heart hammered in my chest. I instinctively ducked into the girls' bathroom. He definitely doesn't want to see me again. After all, who would like a succubus who completely disrupted their life? For the next few days, I deliberately avoided all the places I might run into him. I didn't sit in his usual corner in the cafeteria, I didn't go to the rooftop during lunch, and I took the long way home after school. And Cole never once came to find me. Just as I thought. Once the side effects were gone, he had no reason to. We probably wouldn't have anything to do with each other ever again. Yeah, right. I shrank into the corner of the alley, my back pressed against the cold brick wall, faced with a group of menacing guys. The scene felt disturbingly familiar, only these guys had none of Cole's charm, so I felt zero impulse to kiss them. That kid Cole has gotten pretty cocky, huh? Not paying his debts. The leader said, holding an iron pipe. If I can't get him, I can sure as hell get his girl. I pressed my lips together, my eyes quickly scanning the group, one with a pipe, one with a switchblade, and two empty-handed but built. I'm warning you. Tell him to pay up by tomorrow, or it won't be pretty. The leader said, grabbing my chin. Then again, taking you as interest wouldn't be so bad. Let her go. A furious voice suddenly roared from the alley entrance. Cole stood there, his chest heaving. The wind whipped his uniform jacket open, revealing a disheveled shirt underneath. His eyes were terrifyingly dark, but his voice was chillingly calm. Let her go. The leader sneered. Well, look who finally decided to show up. He yanked my wrist. You want her? Pay up. Cole's knuckles turned white. His eyes were locked on the hand grabbing me. I already paid you. You're the one who jacked up the interest by 10 times at the last minute. So what? The leader taunted, bouncing the pipe in his hand. A debt's a debt. The next second, Cole charged. In the ensuing brawl, I was shocked to discover that Cole was a terrible fighter. He was fast, but he had no technique. It was all just brute force and pure rage. In a matter of moments, they had him pinned to the ground. His forehead was pressed against the dirty concrete, but he was still struggling, yelling at me, run. Seeing the gash on his forehead, my tail shot out with a swoosh. Don't you touch him. When I came to my senses, the thugs were piled on the ground, groaning. I was sitting on the leader's back, my hands wrapped tightly around his neck. Cole sat on the ground, staring at me, completely dumbfounded. I realized my tail and fangs were out. I tossed the unconscious leader onto the pile with the others and quickly retracted them. Sorry. I got too stressed. I couldn't help it. But Cole just smiled. He reached out and wiped a smudge of dirt from my cheek. Good thing the impulse you couldn't help was the one to fight back. He ignored the cuts on his own face and immediately started checking me over. Are you hurt? I'm fine, I said, a little embarrassed. Succubi are actually really strong fighters. I'm just kind of a coward. That's good. He breathed a sigh of relief, then suddenly grabbed my hand, his voice pleading. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have lied to you. The side effects were gone by the second week, but I kept bothering you anyway. My tail popped out again in shock. What? The side effects were gone by the second week? Cole's eyes widened, even more shocked than I was. What? Isn't that why you were ignoring me? My tail was thrashing around behind me, just as chaotic as my brain. What? Weren't you ignoring me because you took the cure? After a series of repetitive whats, I finally pieced it all together. Cole's side effects had worn off a long time ago. He never even saw the cure. He had taken a week off school because his mom's condition had worsened. When he came back, he thought I was ignoring him because I'd found out he'd been faking it. So, you're saying, my tail, seeming to have a mind of its own, wrapped around his waist and pulled him a little closer, all those times you came to find me. You actually wanted to? Duh. Cole let my tail pull him closer, his ears red as he snapped at me. Who do you think was making you snacks every day? I suddenly remembered something, and the tip of my tail smacked the ground. Wait. That time on the rooftop, when you said your legs were weak. I was faking it. He yelled, completely giving up. Then he added in a smaller voice, I just wanted an excuse to see you. My tail instantly shot straight up in excitement, like it had found a new toy. And the time before that in the equipment room. Faking it. And the week before that. Faking. Faking. It was all fake. Cole covered my mouth in a flustered rage. No more questions. But I was already smiling so wide my eyes were crescents. Turns out someone was even greedier than me. You're so cute, I said, pulling his hand away and standing on my toes to nibble on his red-hot earlobe. If you want a kiss, you just have to say so. Cole went rigid, then retaliated by pulling me into a fierce hug. My tail wrapped around his waist, the tip deliberately teasing him. You want it? He mumbled into my shoulder, yeah. I asked mischievously, want what? Cole stubbornly refused to answer. I chuckled and let my tail loosen its grip, pretending I was about to leave. He immediately hugged me tighter. I smiled and asked again, my voice carrying the natural allure of a succubus, want what? Cole finally broke, his face burning. He leaned in close to my ear and whispered, I want a kiss. The words had barely left his mouth before his lips were on mine, uncharacteristically forceful and with a hint of desperation, as if he were afraid I'd disappear. The kiss was a possessive, intimate tangle. The tip of my tail quietly hooked onto the hem of his shirt. Out of his sight, a sly smile spread across my face. Don't forget, no matter how clueless I seem, I'm still a genuine succubus. So, my cousin said, propping her chin on her hand, her black manicured nails tapping against the table. You two are here to borrow money? This time, she was carrying a limited edition handbag, wearing a slinky dress and a delicate necklace, radiating an I'm expensive vibe, a total 180 from her fragile white moonlight look. Cole nodded seriously, though his hands were shaking. My mom needs surgery. We found a match, and this is her last chance. How much? Jess cut him off. He lowered his head, clenching his fists. $50,000. That's it? She calmly pulled out the black card and slapped it on the table. Go nuts. Cole's head shot up. He stood and looked at her earnestly. I'll pay you back. Jess looked at me as if she'd just heard the funniest joke in the world. This little boyfriend of yours is pretty amusing. I can write you an IOU, Cole insisted stubbornly. Jess snorted. Please. It's not my money, anyway. It's her ex-CEO's card, I explained in a low voice. Jess elegantly flicked her hair back and added, and for the record, he still thinks I'm the reincarnation of his dead girlfriend. Cole still wanted to insist on writing an IOU, but under Jess's withering stare and the intimidating presence of a stack of black cards, he finally gave up. Jess suddenly narrowed her eyes, studying us. But, you too. She pointed at Cole's bright red ears, then at my tail, which had subconsciously wrapped around his wrist. You've gotten this far, and you're still this wholesome? Jess. I whined. A disgrace to all succubi, she said, looking at us with disgust. Don't tell me you two still blush when you kiss. Cough. Cole choked violently, his ears turning so red they looked like they were about to bleed, a classic self-confession. Seriously? Jess buried her face in her hands. One is clueless, the other is a total innocent. You two are a match made in heaven. She pulled a book from her bag and tossed it to me. The Succubus's Guide to Romance. Study up. Or don't you dare say you're part of our family. I opened it curiously, my tail wagging in excitement. Wow. It has pictures. Cole slammed the book shut, his voice trembling. We'll look at that when we get home. Jess stood up gracefully, but not before firing one last parting shot. Being this innocent. You better watch out, or someone else might snatch my little Nora away. The color drained from Cole's face. On the way home, he asked glumly, "You wouldn't really go find someone else, would you?" I shook my head. Of course not. Cole let out a small huff, his mood clearly improving. "You're too delicious," I said sincerely. "I don't want to eat anyone else." Nora. The surgery was a success. In a few days, Cole's mom would be able to come home from the hospital. The setting sun stretched our shadows long. Cole suddenly stopped walking and pulled a bag of cookies from his backpack. "Here," he said, turning his face away. "I made them today. Had extra." My eyes lit up. I took the cookies and, when he wasn't looking, planted a quick kiss on his cheek. "I like you the most." "Idiot." Cole fumbled to cover his face. "Don't do that in public." I looked at him expectantly. "So it's okay as long as we're not in public?" Cole didn't answer, his face red, but he quietly reached out and took my hand.